Hello viewers, and thank you for joining us on another special edition of Inside the Real Estate Program brought to you by Housing TV Africa. My name is Abdulmalik Mahdi. I am your host, and many thanks for joining once again. On today's special edition of the program, where we'll be talking about high cost of building materials, among other topical things that have been bedeviling the sector of real estate. And together with me in the studio is Abdulmalik Mahdi, who is the Managing Director, Modern Shelter Systems and Services Limited. Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to join us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Among many other things we need to look at, it has to do with Nasra Technology Village. I mean, for many, they understand that it's a project that has come a long way. And so a lot of people are trying to hear from the key players who are developing this project. What would you tell us concerning the Nasra Technology Village?
Okay, Nasra Technology Village is a partnership between ABS Blueprint, Modern Shelter Systems and Services, Statewide Home Builders, and NASIDA, which is the Nasarawa State Investment Development Authority that is representing Nasarawa State in the consortium of companies. It's a 67-hectare plot, and it is dedicated to affordable housing. The idea is to take advantage of the closeness of Nasarawa State, the proximity of Nasarawa State to the FCT. The site is located just 17 kilometers away from the Federal Secretariat, which is the hub of all government operations in Nigeria, basically. It's 1,200 units, made up of 2-bedroom terraces, 3-bedroom terraces, and 3-bedroom detached duplex, bungalows. Each of the houses, has the potential to have its own gate and compound. They are well spaced. There are green areas, recreational areas, commercial and worship centers, as you obtain in every very good development. It's well planned. We are supported by Shelter Afrique through a bank guarantee issued by InfraCredit on our behalf. So it is, we also have partners with Housing Solutions Fund. So when it comes to giving mortgages, we're also partnering with the Federal Staff Loans Board, which has been very supportive, and other mortgage banks that are currently giving, and family home funds as well. They're also giving mortgages. So we're working with different development partners. We're also having conversations around green energy, so solar power for the estate. We're also having conversations around having an alternative access road, to completely avoid the current Kefi Expressway, go through the back around Nyanya all the way to the site, which will further cut the distance between the site and the FCT. So we are currently planning to commission phase 1, which is about 100 units, and then phase 2, which started in January and is already at roofing stage. We're going to do a flag off ceremony just to introduce the project. We have 370 units in phase 2. And that's the site that is funded by Shelter Afrique in conjunction with InfraCredit. So we're very excited. The Vice President is coming to the site on March 11th, along with the Honorable Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Architect Engiwa, and then of course the host governor, Engineer Abdullahi Esule, without whom this whole project will not have come to be. So we're inviting the general public to come for the commissioning, to come and see for themselves what we'll be able to achieve in a very short period of time, the quality, the speed, and the affordability of that project. They should avail themselves the opportunity also, to use the different mortgage packages available, to use their retirement savings account, which is their pension, their 25% as equity. And we're available at Federal Secretariat Car Park. We have a sample unit there and a marketing office there where you can walk in and get all the information that you need about how to access the project. We can also be reached on www.modernshelterng.com or through Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. We're very available at any time to take you to the site, to take you to the sample house, and to also walk you through the entire process. Because what we do at Modern Shelter, we hold the hands of our customers, we educate you about mortgage, and then we even go to the extent of doing advocacy. We go to the banks and make sure you get a good deal, and we never leave you until we give you your key to your house. So that is essentially what is on offer.
I believe for many of our viewers who are watching us, one of the very things you mentioned is when we mention affordability.
Yes.
For many of our civil servants, in terms of affordability, they have been seeing a lot of buildings where they will say affordable housing. But the moment they start to approach that kind of is another entire. How affordable is this project?
It's very affordable. In fact, we designed this project with civil servants in mind. The whole idea is for people to be able to use their NHF or Civil Service Loans Board or any other government intervention. We have to commend the Nigerian government, for putting the building blocks in place for us. Of course, recently we know about the inflation in the market and all that, but we have tried as much as possible to keep these houses within the reach of civil servants, using their legitimate income. So you have houses 25 million and below, because we also know the salaries of civil servants have not matched inflation, but still we are trying our best to keep the prices within the reach of the ordinary civil servant.
Yes, you mentioned 25 million. We're talking about more.
That's the biggest. The 25 million is a 3-bedroom detached with gate and compound and space for BQ and gatehouse. So you have the 3-bedroom terrace, which is 4 in a block. The 3-bedroom terrace is going for 21.5. And then you have the 2-bedroom, which is going for 18.5. And this is even due to the recent increase in the cost of building materials, which, the inputs that go into these houses, especially when you talk of cement, which has gone up by more than 100%.
Exactly.
Our hands are tied,
yes,
right? But as much as possible, what we can do is to control what profit margin, we go after, and that is what we have tried to do, to pass on any savings that we can do to the clients, because we know that these people really they cannot afford expensive houses. Exactly. And the whole idea is for affordable housing and for civil servants and other people that need housing, not just civil servants. We have people in the non-formal economy, that traders, and everybody is welcome.
I think before we circle back to this 25 million, I want us to take a word, because
that's the most expensive.
Yes.
Let's say 18.5, because the more you say 25 million, it can stick to the mind that the house is 25 million.
No, I understand. You made mention of a lot of this kind of mortgage systems and a lot of packages that comes with it. So we'll circle back. Maybe at the end of the day, when we even unpack it, they will end up saying, 25 million is not, it says I have this, because most of them, when you mention the money, they don't even know that they have what it takes to afford these houses. Yes. So that's why I want us to circle back. You have been in the banking sector, in the real estate for more than 10 years, I believe. You have known what the mortgage system is all about. But for many Nigerians, including civil servants, they feel that the mortgage system in Nigeria is not working. What's your take on that?
So it is a yes and no. It is a no because we have the Federal Mortgage Bank, and that everybody is supposed to contribute about 2.5% of their basic salary, and it's being deducted as source. So you are entitled to up to 50 million. Now it used to be 15 million, but now up to 50 million you can take as mortgage to buy the house of your choice. Of course, depends on how many years you have left in service, and also depends on your income. So the challenge has been lack of knowledge, and for that I blame the mortgage banks, because you can't go to Federal Mortgage Bank directly. It has to be through primary mortgage institutions. So there's not enough advocacy being done by these primary mortgage institutions to inform Nigerians that even the non-formal sector, you can actually apply and contribute as a voluntary contributor. So in terms of advocacy, that is lacking. And then in terms of the housing supply, to match those prices, because if you tell me that the civil servant can only afford, say, 15 million, for example, right? So it is now incumbent on us to go and build a house of 15 million. You can't go and build a house of 80 million, 100 million, and then expect civil servants to take it. So even if they know about it, they want to access it, if the housing supply to match their income is not available, then there's a distortion. And another thing on the side of the civil servants, is that they also don't have knowledge of the fact that, for example, you can use your RSA contribution, which is your retirement savings account, the pension deduction. You can use up to 25% of that. as equity contribution, because previously the challenge has always been, oh, I don't have equity contribution, because you are supposed to contribute about 30% of the cost of the house, 20%, 10%, depending on the amount you are borrowing. So the complaint has always been, look, we don't have savings, we don't have anything. So government has recently allowed people to use up to 25% of what they have saved. So a typical civil servant today can actually walk to a developer, get a property, use the 25% RSA, use the balance from NHF, and get a house without actually bringing out any money from his pocket. And I feel that people should avail themselves that opportunity. Because if you are not going to live in the house, so for example, a married woman, but she's staying with her husband in her husband's house, she can actually buy that property and as an investment product. She has used her NHF and has used her RSA, because leaving those monies unused, even though they earn interest, but the interest is very, very low. And when you compare it to the yield in real estate and the inflation, so when you retire in 15 years, 20 years, or 10 years, whatever monies they are going to give you, compared to the capital appreciations on that real estate, it's better for you to invest in real estate today.
Yes. Do you feel that, because you made mention of this primary mortgage system, I mean, I believe for many this is the first time they're even hearing this primary mortgage, because for them, when you talk about mortgage system, they're talking about federal mortgage bank, and all they feel is that they can just walk in there and talk about the mortgage system, and then they are impossible to reach when you look at it, because there are a bunch of applications, this and that, come back this and when, until they even lose hope. Talking about the civil servant, when you look at it in Nigeria, some will serve for 30 years, some 25 years. At the end of the day, their biggest fear is the fact that they will retire without having a house of their own. And that's where affordability comes in.
Yes, so the government is trying, but government needs to do more. Just like government has intervened in the agricultural sector, for example, by providing farm inputs, fertilizer, subsidies in different ways and forms, they need to look at real estate and recognize the critical role it plays in the building of the national economy. Typically, every house you are building, you employ not less than 10 people for a simple one unit. And that's directly. You're not talking of all the indirect employment from the manufacturers of the components of the house. So the doors, the wires, the other industries that survive because you are building a house. Right? So government needs to really look at how, in every country in the world, major economies, there is social housing, there's affordable housing. So that government comes in with subsidies, directly and indirectly, to bring down these prices of houses. So for example, now if cement is going for 12,000 in the market, but for affordable housing, there's a way they can encourage the major cement producers and say, look, if you are selling 30% of your production to people making affordable housing, we will also give you a commiserate reduction in your in your taxes, right? Which encourages them to crash the price of cement to people building specific types of houses. And that way the savings can then go into the prices of those houses, so that continuously civil servants and people that need to afford those houses, people at the lower rung of the ladder, because we must not forget that civil servants are not up to 1% of Nigerians. Majority of Nigerians are not civil servants. You are not a civil servant, and you also need a house. So the focus should not be only on civil servants. It should be on Nigerians that are working, that are earning, either through trades or through in the private sector, that need accommodation. So everybody should be able to buy a house, and government needs to do more when it comes to that. We have a good we have hope now, that the minister being a round peg in a round hole, in the next 4 years, some of these things will come and we'll see a lot of traction, and the importance of real estate will continue to grow and grow year on year.
All right, thank you so much for that insight. I believe you have mentioned a lot of things for the government recognizing the fact that real estate is one of the major employers in Nigeria. I will take you off on that, but we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll continue on that. Well, viewers, we're going to take on a quick break. I understand you've been engaging and you wouldn't want us to cut you short. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Visit Housing TV Africa on YouTube and click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to Housing TV Africa to stay updated on latest happenings in Nigeria's housing sector. Follow our social media pages, like and share our posts on Facebook, Housing TV Africa, on Twitter, Housing TV Africa, Instagram, Housing TV Africa. Join the conversation and keep up with latest housing updates.
Well, viewers, thank you so much for still being with us, and for those joining us, this is Inside Real Estate program on Housing TV Africa. My name is Abdulmalik Mahdi, and we've been deliberating on the high cost of building materials among other issues with Abdulmalik Mahdi, who is the Managing Director, Modern Shelter Systems and Services. Thank you so much, sir, for still being with us.
Thank you.
Yes, you were talking about government recognizing the impact of real estate sector, and for them realizing that they need to engage them in terms of building affordable housing and all. And you recognize that the man who is in charge of Ministry of Urban Development is a man who knows how the things are done and everything. Yes, let's look at this high cost of building materials. And one of the biggest things we're talking about is cement. Out of all the other building materials you need, cement is something that has been skyrocketing the prices and all, drawing a lot of attention. Why are we always talking about these major manufacturers, cement, Dangote, Bua, as the major? Where's government in this? I mean, the only thing we see when it comes to government is sitting down with these manufacturers. Are we saying that the government has no stake in terms of manufacturing this cement in Nigeria?
Well, Nigeria is a capitalist economy, yes, a free market. So everybody is allowed to go into the business. Today you can open a cement factory if you have the capital and the know-how. So these are people that have invested, trillions of naira, in the last 20 years to develop capacity and to become the major cement manufacturers. Of course, they've enjoyed a lot of government support, subsidies and protection, because it's illegal, for example, to import cement, to Nigeria and all that. So for the industries to develop, government had to do that for them. And the argument is that, look, it is time for you to also pay back, because if you look at it today, Nestle declared a loss, huge loss. MTN declared a loss, but these guys are declaring fantastic profits. So how can you be profiting that much in an economy that is nearly dead, right? So you need to also figure out, how, like I said earlier, government can sit down and say, look, in terms of taxation, because also government makes money from those profits. If they make 250 billion, the government will take their 30% and all that. So FIRS is happy, but Ministry of Housing is not happy, right? So the government has to speak with one voice and one direction. We don't want a situation whereby, as previously obtained in different governments, where Ministry of Housing is going this way, we want to do affordable housing, and probably like FIRS wants to tax Dangote, so they want them to make money. So there has to be harmony, right? We have to understand that, okay, for housing to go on, create employment, give people shelter, create mortgages, the overall good in housing succeeding is greater than the tax that you charge a Dangote or Bua. So that's for the people in budget planning and all those to put tests together to come up with one policy that is not contradicting the other and pulling in opposite directions. So it's very difficult for government to come in and say, okay, we're nationalizing or prescribing prices and all that, because it's a free economy, right? But also, I think government can devise ways, because these guys, their argument is that they are buying gas and they are paying in dollars. But the person that is selling gas to them is also a company that is also, charging them in dollars, also having expenses in dollars and everything. So everybody needs to come to the table, not just them, but who is giving them the gas. And the government, at one hand, Ministry of Petroleum Resources maybe is one that gave the gas guy the concession, right? And they are expecting certain returns from there. So there are many ways that government can intervene without unnecessarily, unduly interfering in business. But there is nowhere that government would just sit back and allow the economy to crash, or one sector, to just kill people or kill businesses, as is happening now. And that's why the government quickly, called on these people to say, guys, come, let's sit down, let's understand what is happening. And they are going to reconvene in about 2 weeks to review what has happened. And it's very urgent because the prices have not come down since that meeting. So something urgent and more permanent actually needs to be done.
Yes, I mean, despite you being a real estate specialist in all this, you are also a Nigerian, and for many Nigerians, they share the view that if these manufacturers continue to benefit, because for many Nigerians who are trying to build houses, they feel that the manufacturers are somehow gaining out of their hardship. I mean, the putting of the price and all of that. So they say, why government start to regularize price in this country?
So again, this is a capitalism. Yes, there is no unbridled capitalism per se. In every country, the government from time to time needs to regulate the
price or the market.
Not price, the market, so that there is no exploitation.
Exactly.
Right? But it is very difficult for you to preach free market on one hand, and for people to invest their capital and so far, and then you now come and say sell price of cement at 5,000 or at 3,500. It can't happen that way. But you need to create the enabling environment. You need to understand, if it is true first, that the price of cement should be 12,000. If you establish the truth in that, then you now see what are the factors. Like they said themselves, like I gave the example, say gas. How can we give these people cheaper gas so that they can produce at a cheaper rate? Because they themselves, don't forget, they employ a lot of labor, from their factories to their distributors to their drivers. A lot of employment has been created by these people. They've also contributed to the economy. So we need to work together. It's not an issue of breaking or fighting, because at the end of the day, we need a settlement. We need them to succeed, but we also need to succeed. We need the industry that they are serving to also succeed.
Exactly. I mean, talking about real estate sector, we're talking about a huge investment for somebody to be able to thrive in the sector and all. What do you say for those who are coming up, and for many years they try to make sure that to lean on the government for them creating enabling environment policies? Do you feel at the moment, apart from the removal of fuel subsidy, that the policies we have on ground is actually favoring the real estate?
Oh, well, we have the economy as a whole. The macro economy is in dire straits. The forex floating, deregularization or removal of fuel subsidy, insecurity. There are so many things that the government is contending with, and there is no sector in the economy that is not suffering one way or the other. So the real estate is not isolated from what is happening, right? Of course, we know that government can still do more in terms of probably giving us land, access to land, provision of infrastructure, right? Supporting the mortgage industry so that people can access mortgages and buy houses. Now, but we need to understand the situation generally, that there are many things that are wrong, and these things do not happen overnight. It happened over a long period of time, and they will take time to get fixed, right? So anybody that is entering into the business needs to understand the risks. He needs to understand what it takes, to survive, because it's not easy. It's not easy at all. We are finding it very tough. But like I said, it's the same with every other sector right now. So, but we will continue to do advocacy for our own sector. Continue to call government to say, look, in other countries, this is how they do it, this is how they do it, and we will help you. Because if we are operating optimally, it means that, the economy, any economy that you see that is growing, you see the contribution of real estate to the GDP is substantial. So we are saying that take us, just like you take agriculture, take us also as partners in progress, and see whether we will not even beat agriculture in terms of contribution to the GDP.
Yes, I mean, so many things you said the government is contending with: issue of insecurity, the removal of fuel subsidy, among others. We're talking about this insecurity, and then before the removal of insecurity, we're battling with this. Before the removal of fuel subsidy, we're battling with insecurity, and then government comes in and remove fuel subsidy. Do you feel that things could have been done different?
Well, I'm not an economist, you know, but the truth
as a Nigerian, you can.
As a Nigerian, yes. Well, I'm not probably qualified to do. What I can say is, like I said earlier, things are very, very bad, and these things did not happen over the last 8-9 months. Yes. These are things that this government inherited, right? And they are hydra-headed, you know, and the only thing they can do is to do their best and with sincerity of purpose, and for patriotic Nigerians to support them in trying to tackle these problems. And our focus is always on the federal government. We must not forget that we run a federal system of government with 3 tiers. Exactly. Because we have the state governments, we need to do their own part, who have been getting a lot of monies, especially after the removal of fuel subsidy. We have also the local governments, even though they are still fighting for their autonomy. So in terms of governance and reaching the poor, you know, these 2 tiers also need to perform. But the focus, erroneously, in Nigeria has always been on federal government. Right? So honestly, I'm not qualified to give prescribe what I think could have been done better. All I know is that in housing sector we can do A, B, C, which I've been telling you, and which will help the economy. So if they call me to give advice on housing, I'm qualified to give them, but not on the overall economy.
All right, I believe you have said a lot. Talking about federal governments building affordable houses, how do you feel about that?
Well,
they themselves building the house.
So the housing gap in Nigeria, the deficit is a lot. Is a lot, and all hands must be on deck for us to produce the number of houses that we need in a year. However, you see, when government has not been historically good in business. Exactly. Right? So even where there are some houses that we know under some schemes in Nigeria that are still empty, or they were poorly built, poorly sited, and all that because of one government policy or another. What I will say is that even if government is going to be involved, 80% of involvement should be via the private sector, while they take their enabling environment, create it, regulate it, right, and provide funding and subsidy where possible. But in terms of getting directly involved in actually building, giving out contracts, you know, that should be, you know, what do you call it? That should be less than, you know, 80%, 80-20 rule. You know, 80% private sector, maybe 20% government, because government must still participate. You can't just tell government to step aside. The need is an emergency. Housing is an emergency. We're not talking about it only because we have other problems like security and food, right? But in terms of shelter, after food, the next thing is shelter. So we have to shelter the 20 million plus Nigerians that need shelter.
I mean, for many experts in housing sector I've sat down with, they are having great hopes when it comes to Honorable Minister of Housing and Urban Development. They said he's a man who they believe he can join them together. Talking about renewed hope, do you see it coming to life? Because we have had a lot of administrations coming in with similar projects as this. What difference could this one make?
Sincerity of purpose. So when you have somebody that has done it before in a lower capacity as MD of Federal Mortgage Bank successfully, and now he has the overall responsibility of housing in the country, you know, that is where the hope is coming, because we have known him to be a performer. He has done it before, right? And now he has even more powers, more scope, and the support of the president. You know, so we don't see him as a person associated with failure, and he's also somebody that is very engaged with the industry. So as private sector players, he listens to us, he takes advice, right? So somebody like that, you know, is not destined to fail. So that's why that source of hope, in the renewed hope, is coming from.
It's coming from. All right. I believe the time is looking us at the first. Let's look at this to top it off so that we can round it up. In terms of land administration, is it Is real estate enjoying land administrations, deals and all of that, or are they falling traps of some kind of bureaucratic impact?
Well, I would say that it's one of the areas where every time we get the opportunity to talk to government, we tell them now, for you to have affordable housing, you must give us access to land. And you give us access to land at affordable rates in good places, so that we are now compelled, even by policy, to provide affordable housing for people. I've been in this industry for 10 years. I've built, thousands of houses directly and indirectly, and I've never gotten any government allocation, and we have applied. For sub-nationals, we partner like the National Technology Village with the state government, but I feel that government can still do more and do a lot more in terms of access to land, giving land to people that need it, and the people that will build housing for the people. Because if you take the FCT, for example, over the years, people just apply for land because probably they are the ones in government at that time.
Yes.
They get allocations, and then that area is also developed by government using taxpayers' monies. And then they only turn around, either sell the plots or get developers like us to do joint ventures, and they walk away with billions of naira. Nothing out of that money goes back to government, even as replacement cost for the infrastructure. And that's why government cannot consistently develop the whole of the FCT. Because FCT now we're about maybe phase 5, and infrastructure is only in phase 1 and 2. The others is just here and there. But because the lands were given to certain people who probably have no interest, no expertise, and no competence in developing what they have, they always look for developer, come let's do JV. No, but if you look at it, how much did you pay for the land? What entitled you? Is it raffle draw? How did you get the land? And then you now turn around and collect 5-10 billion naira, just like that. You don't even pay property tax, on those. So government just develops these districts, places like Katampe Extension now, full infrastructure, hundreds of billions of naira, but it's only the people that have land there that are making the money, and the FCT administration is out of that sharing. And this is what's going to happen in Maitama too. This is going to happen in other areas, because the land allocation is not done on the basis of need, and also driving that affordability or affordable housing or housing provision. Because if you take 10 hectares and give somebody that is a senior civil servant that is maybe probably about to retire, or a politician, the only thing you can do is sell the place. And that's the highest form of rent seeking, unfortunately, because the amount of billions that are used to develop those districts, is really not fair on the other taxpayers in the country.
All right. While we have real estate developers who are doing their best, like you, which you said you have been in the sector for the past 10 years and you have built a lot of houses. You've been persevering, trying to see that despite unsteady policies of government and change, you are still able to thrive. But for many, those who are in the market, who are not persevering the way you are, for some of them, they said we'll shut down size until when government improve on their policies, we can come back. While others are taking their businesses out. Do you feel that this time, since we're already even having some real estate developers going out of the country, do you see it as a bad or a kind of shame on the part of our government, looking at the fact that our internal developers, due to the government policies, bad government policies, they are relocating to other countries to invest?
So, like I said, it's a very tough operating environment in every sector.
Yes.
And I think it's only maybe survival of the fittest. So the companies that are well established, run very well, they have good corporate governance and organizational nous, are the people that will probably survive these tough times, right? And I don't want to criticize the government, not because I'm scared of the government or anything, but because I feel it's unfair for some government that is not up to a year, that has inherited all these problems. Of course, like the president said, they are the ones that said, give me the job, so they can do it.
Yes, that's what
but these things, you have to give them time for it to manifest. So, but again, it's a free market, free entry, free exit. If you feel you can't stand the heat, you get out of the kitchen. So anybody that feels cannot do real estate at this time is a shame, because we want more developers, because we want more houses, more employment, do you understand, and add to the housing stock, because we are way behind where we should be, right? So It is rather unfortunate, and we hope that people will be more resilient. Right? We hope that the financial sector, hope that the government will really come to the aid of the industry so that the industry does not collapse. Because if the industry collapses, it's a national security problem, like I keep saying. Because where are you going to take these artisans that we have in Abuja?
Because we are having
where
all
are you
those,
going to take all those laborers,
exactly.
skilled workers, unskilled workers that are working daily wage earners on our sites? Imagine that all these sites shut down, right? Where are those guys going to go? They are adding to the insecurity. So whatever we need to do to keep this industry going so that we keep employing these people so that they can buy food, you know, I think we should try as much as possible to do it.
Okay, well, Abdulmalik Mahdi is the Managing Director, Modern Shelter Systems and Services Limited. I mean, the conversation has been wonderful and very engaging, I believe, on my part and on the part of our viewers. We'd like to sincerely thank you for coming in. I mean, it's been a well-deliberated one.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and we wish to have you again.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Well, viewers, you have been on with us on Inside Real Estate, where we deliberate on a lot of issues on how we can make sure our youth stay on the work, on the job. It's been a very top, as Mr. Mahdi stated. My name is Abdulmalik Mahdi, and that's it on today's package on Inside the Real Estate program. Goodbye for now.